Good evening. I was thinking about some of the proverbs that we hold to in our societies. I'm not talking about the proverbs in the Bible. I'm talking about proverbs like the early bird gets the worm, squeaky wheel gets the grease. You know you're over the target when you're catching flack. Now those are, if you apply them in the right situation, they can be useful. But like most things, there is an opposite. There's a balance. It's like, it's really hard to demonstrate what silence is without making noise. It's really hard to understand what light is without darkness. The early bird catches the worm. The early bird also runs the risk of being eaten by the early cat. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. You hear that one in the context of business a lot. I've been in several businesses. The squeaky wheel sometimes gets replaced. So you got to be careful. If you adhere to some of these things and be wary of what the opposite is or the counter narrative, because there's always an opposite counter narrative. You know you're over the target if you're catching flack. Well, sometimes you're catching flack because you're saying stupid shit. This video might light somebody's fire. It's another one we hear a lot. It's not necessarily a proverb, it's just something that you hear. Well, pipe smokers are very thoughtful, very smart, reflective, thinking people. I think the truth is there have been some really smart people who just happen to smoke a pipe. There have also been some really stupid people that have smoked a pipe, some really nasty people that have smoked a pipe. People usually like to point out Stalin in this instance. Well, the more I look around, the more I listen to people who happen to have a pipe stuck in their mouth. The less apt I am to believe that a general truism is that they're thinking, reflective, smart, intelligent people. Guarantee you, if you think about a few people that you know that smokes a pipe, and you can't see any of them as being an idiot, it might be you. I was thinking about telling a story on a video. Problem is, I don't know any good stories, and I'm a crappy storyteller. So I kind of shot down that idea. But I've had this thing going around my head the last couple of days. It's kind of a metaphor. Well, let's see how it comes out. I'm almost certain everything I've thought of will not come out of my mouth here. Once upon a time, there was a great wise spirit. And he said to the people, look, there's a really cool valley that I give you. Go there. Inhabit it. Have fun. Do what you like. Just don't mess it up. And lo, the people went, few at first, and they liked the valley. They liked the fact that they could enjoy the valley and be themselves and do things. And some built tents, some built caves and rocks, some built teepees, some built bunkers. But they were all positioned around this valley where they could see each other, they could interact with each other, and they did that. And generally speaking, peace ensued. Well, word got out of how great this place was, and new people started to come. And they were usually well received, welcomed. And they built their little hut somewhere, lean-to maybe. And they joined in the fun. But occasionally one would come in that didn't get along with one of the elders of the valley. And there would be tension. And it would usually get resolved. And there were inherent rules. They weren't written down anywhere on stone tablets or anything like that. But it was generally taken that you didn't piss in the drinking stream. And when someone did that, the others would usually shame him, and he would either leave of his own accord, or if he kept up his bad behavior, they would kick him out. But the more and more people came, it became harder. It became harder to have people have the same vision of the valley that originally existed. And then one day, the Great Spirit thought to himself, you know, I could benefit from this if enough people show up. And so he gathered around himself a council. And the council decided they didn't need the Great Spirit. So they paid him off and he left. The council made rules for the valley. The valley didn't like the rules. So they complained. But the council didn't listen to them. And all this time, more and more new people were showing up. Over the course of several years, there were so many people in the valley that it was impossible for everyone to know everyone else, or to even see everyone else. And the more people that pissed in that stream, The old folks in the valley decided it was a useless task to try to police this, so they left. They went and found a new valley somewhere else. And more people came. The stream kept getting more and more polluted. And people in the valley started deciding they needed to make their own little councils so they could protect themselves and feel loved and feel important. And so all of these little groups started forming. Most of the groups got along with most of the other groups. Some didn't. And wars ensued. These little groups grew and became tribes, and the wars ensued. Some people tried to preserve the memory of the valley. Some people wanted it to be something entirely different. So the wars kept on ensuing. And it got worse and worse, till eventually a big war ensued. Lots of people left and lots of new people came in because there's strength in numbers. And one day, they thought they had achieved victory and they could do what they wanted in their valley without any of the other groups having any say in it. And then the Great Council dropped a nuclear bomb in the middle of the valley and wiped everything out. And the Great Council lived happily ever after.